So hello everyone, welcome to this another video of this channel. I'm Abhishek Verma and today you are watching another video of our Spring Data JPA series. By now, we have covered almost all the important concepts of the Spring Data JPA, and hence in today's video, we are going to see how to perform the unit testing in Spring Data JPA with the help of Spring Boot. We will be testing the service layer as well as the repository layer. Now, a small disclaimer that the goal of this video is not to teach you how to make usage of JUnit or how to make usage of Mockito, because I am assuming that you already know the basics. The goal is how to implement that JUnit and Mockito and test the service and repository layer directly in Spring Boot. So without wasting any more time, let's directly get started and see how to test the things.
So now we are in the IDE, and as always I have created a new demo, that is demo number 11. But before going through it, let's have a quick recap and see what we did in the last video. So for this I'll go to this demo 10 and here I'll go to this UML diagram. So in the previous video we saw that we were having a demo class which was containing the main method. From there we went to the service layer. In the service layer we were having two interfaces for the service, owner service and pet service, and their implementations. Then from there we went to the owner repository and the pet repository, that's the repository layer. Now besides this we were also having the owner mapper and the pet mapper, which used to do the job of converting entity to DTO and DTO to pet. Beside this, we are also having the input util, which was containing the utility methods to accept the input from the user. We were also having the exceptions here. So these were the custom exceptions. Then if we go here, so we were having the entity classes. So the owner entity class was there, pet was there. Under pet, we were having domestic pet and the wild pet, and we were following the inheritance here. Now you remember that in the last video we were doing it with the multiple databases, hence the owner was in MySQL database, pet was in another H2 database along with domestic pet and the wild pet. Hence there was no possibility of direct one-to-one or any other kind of the mapping. But for the primary key we were writing it in the base class and annotated it with @mapped superclass. Then we were also having the enums for gender and pet type. To the UI we were returning the DTO classes, and within the DTO classes we also implemented the lombok. So that was implemented in the whole project. Now since we were working with the multiple databases, so Spring Data JPA says that now I won't be providing you much details, hence you need to create your own configuration classes. So we made one for the MySQL, another for the H2. So this was how the previous demo used to look like. But the goal for today's demo is that we need to perform the unit testing on the service layer and the repository layer. So let's jump there. So now we are in this particular one. Now for today's demo, the src main Java is completely coded. I mean, there is nothing new in that particular part. So let me just quickly go through it. So here you see we have input util, and deliberately I have taken only three options here. Yeah, so these three options have been taken so that we can perform some actions in the repository layer also, and there are some actions in the service layer also. The goal is not to test each and every method. The goal was to show you that how you can write test cases for the service and the repository layer. So here you see one method is that we can update the pet details of the owner. So we will be providing owner ID and updated pet name. Then the next one is that we can find only specific pet details, plus we can make usage of pagination also. And the third one is to find the average age of the pet. So only three options. Then this one to accept the owner ID, this one to accept the updated pet name, and this one is to accept the page size and the page number. You have already seen this pagination in the previous videos also, so there is nothing new here. Now you see that for today's demo we are not making usage of mapper because there was no need of it. Okay, so we were not returning much data in the DTO format, so hence it was not required here, neither we were saving anything new. So now from here, if I directly, I mean, there is no need to go to this demo. So if I directly jump on to this pet service sample, you see here we are having just one method to find average age of the pet. The job is very, very simple. It's not doing anything much. It's simply calling the repository method. So this is my repository method. And for this, that you know that we need to write our own query. So here we are making usage of query by annotation. Then what it will do is it will return me something optional. So if it will return me some value, then I will return it, else I will be returning 0 here. So just a simple job here. Then beside this, in my owner service, you see that here I'm having two methods. One is to update the pet details. For this, I'm just first of all finding the owner ID, whether it exists or not. If it doesn't exist, we will be throwing the exception with a particular message, and that message we are reading from the properties file. Then in case the owner exists, so we are going to fetch the pet and update the pet name, and then we are going to save it back to the repository. For the update pet details, you will say that okay Abhishek, in the previous videos you shown us one more different way. So yeah, that is true, I have shown you another way, but here the goal is that I want to show you that for this particular one there is no separate repository method I have written. Okay, so then also how to test this particular thing, so that is the main goal, hence I have taken this example. Now in this one, you see we are just providing the page number and number of records per page, that is the page size. So with that we are creating a pageable object in this particular one, and then directly we are calling the repository method. Then the repository method is going to only provide us specific details, that is the ID of the owner, first name, last name, and the pet name. Okay, and also it is going to do a joining between owner and pet, and the output is going to be an object array. So this is how it is going to look like. Yeah, so that means in our two repositories we have written two custom methods, plus we have written three service layer methods. So in total we are having 5 methods with us. So let's see how we can perform the testing here. So for this, first of all we will be doing the testing of the service layer, then we will do it for the repository layer. Now what I will be doing is, first of all I will only test the pet service IMPL, and then I will be testing the pet repository IMPL. Then you will get an idea that okay, how to test a service, how to test a repository. Then for owner service and owner repository, I'll do a directly copy paste. I won't be coding one by one, and then I will just show you that okay, what other changes or what other things you need to repeat, okay, just for the revision purpose. So now number one thing is that whenever you want to do a testing, so we need a testing dependency also. So let's go to this pom.xml. Now you remember that what I always do is that in all my demos I remove the testing dependency. So until unless I feel that I need to perform any kind of testing, I remove it completely. So that's why it is not available here by default. So what we can do here is that we will go into this one, and here we are directly having the Spring initializer. So here I will just simply say explore. I mean that's it, I don't need to add anything, but the point is I need to select it as Maven here. So let me select it as Maven. I will say explore, and from here I will simply copy the testing dependency. That's it, nothing much to do here. So I will come back to this particular one, and here I will be adding this testing dependency, and let me select it and say here something like format. So it should be available here. Yeah, this is how it is going to format. So that's the only thing you need to do, nothing much. And generally, I mean, you don't need to add it explicitly like this, it will become along with the project by default. Yeah, so this change we have made here. Now let's close it, and now let's start writing the test. So for this we just need to write the things under src test java. So main business logic we always write under src main java, and whenever we want to perform any kind of testing we write under src test java. So let's go here and let's create a class first of all. So here the class looks like. Now first of all I wish to test the pet service IMPL. So the class name I will be writing like this, that is pet service IMPL, and then I will be saying here test. So from the class name itself it's very clear that okay, it is going to test the pet service IMPL. Now remember that you never test the interface, okay, so hence we are not calling it as pet service test. Okay, we just need to say it as pet service IMPL test. Now for the package name, so for the package name also we will be saying here com.abhishek. So let me give it the complete name, Abhishek Verma A10, and then we will be saying here service something like this, and beside service we will be saying here IMPL. So let me say IMPL and then dot test. So same. So again in the package name also you see it's same, the only thing is I have added test at the end. Now we will say finish here, and now it is going to provide me this particular class. Now the rule is Sonar is also saying that since when it is a test class, it should not be public in nature from JUnit 5 onwards. So all your latest Spring Boot is going to make usage of JUnit 5. So you don't need to make your class as public, and this is specifically for the test classes. So this is how it is going to look like. Now, within this, now the next goal is that we need to write the test methods. So let me open this pet service IMPL parallelly. Now what I will do is I will just copy this name as it is as of now. Okay, so I'll just do a simple copy and I'm going to paste it here, something like this. Now when you want to write a test for it, so how we do is, first of all the test methods are going to have a return type as void. Now the test method name is going to look like this, test, then we will say underscore. Now generally you will say that okay, in Java we don't make usage of underscore and something like this. Instead we make of usage of camel case approach. But the point is, when you are writing the test cases, so at that time it is fine, you can make usage of these underscores also. Okay. Now there are plenty of ways. Like if you wish, you can just simply do it like this, that okay, test and something like this, and believe me, now you can consider it as a method. But now if you see, it is not much clear to me that okay, what it is going to test. Although I know that okay, it is going to test this particular method, find average age of the pet. But here neither I'm saying that okay, what is the condition, neither I'm saying that okay, what is the expected output, what I am expecting this method to do, something like this. Okay, so that should be clear from your method name itself. So while some developers follow this approach that they only say test and the method name, but then there is a better approach also, where we say that you make usage of these underscores, something like this, and here you see this. Now our first condition is that when pets exist. So that is my first condition, that when pets exist in the database, then it should work. And what it should do is, so something like this, so it should be returning me the average age. Okay, so something like this, average age. So this is the goal. Now you see this method is even more readable, that I am going to test find average age of the pet. The condition is when pets are going to exist, and what it should do, so it should be returning me the average age. Yeah, so average, and here you will say that okay, Abhishek, this is a spelling mistake, so let me correct it like this, average. Yeah, so now it's looking better for us. Yeah. Now the next thing is, since it is going to be a test method, so we need to annotate it with @test. Yeah, and let's say Control Shift O. So you see automatically it is coming from JUnit 5 here. Now again, remember that whenever these test methods are there, they again don't need to be public in nature. They can be by default as default only. Okay, or we can say it as package private. So now within this, so generally within the test also, whenever you are going to write, there are three things. First of all, what is given to you? The conditions. Okay, so when these conditions are given, then we will say when. Okay, so now here we will be saying when. So this given means what conditions are given. What are the overall conditions, that okay, your database is having some pet, it is not having some pet, or something like this. Then we say when. So when means we are going to actually call some particular method which we want to test. So when this method is called, then we are going to expect this particular kind of output, where we will be doing the assertions and the verifications. Okay, so here in the when part, so in the when part, what I will be doing is I will say that okay, I want to invoke the test method which you want to test, or the actual method which you want to test. So in the pet service, I want to invoke this particular method, that is, here it is. So let me just simply copy paste this particular one. So I will say copy, and I'm going to paste it like this. Okay, so I want to test this, but the point is, for this I need a pet service. Okay, so how I can make usage of this pet service? For this, the job is very simple. I need to say here private, and here I will be saying pet service, something like this, and here I will be saying pet service. Now since I'm having only one implementation of the pet service interface, hence I can simply make usage of pet service. In case there are multiple implementations, so better to go for the pet service IMPL instead of pet service here. Okay, so now let's do the import. Now after this, now here you see that generally what happens when you are making usage of Spring Boot, there you can auto wire the things. Okay, but how to do the things here? So here also, the class which you are going to test, so that you are allowed to auto wire. So that particular one we can auto wire because we are making usage of Spring Boot. So this is how it is going to look like. So now it says that okay, this is the one, and the output. So output is going to be something like a double, and here we will say it is going to be the actual average age. Okay, because we are going to call this, I'm not sure why I keep on writing the wrong spellings again and again. So now this is fine. So now when I say when I will be calling this, then what I'm assuming. So now my assumption is that assert, so I will be saying here assert that, something like this. And here as of now, let's choose any one of them, or let me simply start writing it. So I will say when assert that. So what my assertion is that whenever I will call this particular one, then obviously it is going to return me this particular part. But then it should be equal to, so is, I will say equal to, and then it is going to be equal to my some expected average age. So here let me write it like expected. So I will say expected and then average, and here I will be saying age. Okay, so again, see, I mean, I'm not sure why is it happening. So I will say expected average age. Now you will say, okay, where is this expected average age? Okay, so we will say that, okay, that will be our given part. Okay, so in the given we can write that, okay, we are going to do expect this particular average age, that is expected is this particular one. And here as of now, let's simply provide some value, something like this. Okay, later on we will see that, okay, how this is going to work. Okay, now the next thing is that, okay, how we are going to fetch this particular one assertion. Okay, like assert that. So from where we can fetch this particular one. So for this, what we just need to do here is that, first of all, if I try on this particular one, so here it says that, okay, there are many from the assert j, and I can choose any one of them. Let me simply choose this one. So you see, this is how it is going to look. Now you see that all these assertions we will be taking from the assert j and not the JUnit one. Okay, because these ones are going to be much more readable. So when there is any kind of failure, they are going to be provide you much better output instead of the JUnit ones. Yeah, and Spring Boot is going to support JUnit, Mockito, and all these things are automatically supported by JUnit. So you don't need to even worry much. Yeah, so that's the point here. But now you see here the rule is that now we are testing the pet service. But what about pet repository? Because now whenever we are going to call this method, internally it is going to call the pet repository, but there can be a chance that by that particular amount of time the pet repository is not yet ready, or someone has not even implemented the pet repository method. So in that case, how to work? So what we are going to do is we will be saying here private and something like this pet repository. So this is the one, and here I will be saying pet repository like this. And for this, I will be saying that, okay, don't call the actual one. Instead, simply mock the bean. Since we are making usage of Spring Boot, hence we are saying mock bean and not mock. Okay, so this is the thing we need to write here. If you are making usage of normal Java, you say @mock. But since you are working in the Spring Boot, you need to tell here as @mock bean. Now, so this is the point, but still the thing is we are not making usage of it. Okay, so how to make use of it? So here we need to tell in the given condition. So here we will say Mockito, something like this, Mockito dot when. So here we will say that, okay, whenever we are going to call this particular thing, and within this we are going to say find average, something like this, at that time always return me. So I will say then return, and the output, if you remember, the output is going to be something like optional. Okay, so here also I will be saying optional dot of, and here I will say expected. Okay, so same thing as it is, you can tell. So this is how it is going to look like, guys. Yeah, and if you wish, what you can do here is that where it went, it is somewhere in this particular part, so we will be making it as static, and I will say here dot star. So automatically it will do all the import, and I can remove it from this particular part. And now I will say Control Shift O, Control Shift F. So this is how it is going to look like, guys. Yeah, so now you see the test case. So I have just mentioned @test. In the given conditions, I have two things. What I'm expecting average age to be 5.0. So from the repository, whenever I call this particular method, return me this particular value. Then what I'm doing, I'm actually calling the particular method, and then obviously within this it is going to call the repository method, then that particular value will be returned. So some actual value will be saved here, and then I'm doing the assertion. Yeah, so this assertion we are doing. Now another thing which we can do here is that we can say here verify. So we can also verify whether that in the actual logic it is making the calls or not. So we can again say here that within this it should be actually making a call. So pet repository, and then we can again say here find. So here it should come, but because of this particular thing it's not coming. So let me just do a small change here, that I will be saying again here star. So Control Shift O. So now this verify is automatically coming. So now I will say find average, something like this, and yeah, here it goes. So also verify that pet repository and this particular method is actually getting called. We can also say that okay, also verify that it's getting called only once, so only one time. And again for this the rule is very simple. You just need to say star, say again Control Shift O, and it will get automatically imported. Okay, so we are also doing the assertion, also we are doing the verification. Now believe me, here we don't have anything much to do, because as you can see that okay, whatever is getting returned from the repository, we are just returning it to the user. So actually there is nothing much to do in this particular test, but the goal is not what to write within the test, but the actual overall thing, that okay, how to make a test class, how to write this thing, how to say at the rate test, what is the given when then conditions and something like this. You need to learn that particular part. Okay, so that is our goal. Now next one is, this is a scenario when it is working fine. Now there needs to be a negative scenario also. So let me just copy this particular one and let me provide here. So my negative scenario is when pets does not exist. So I will be saying does not exist. So something like this, and here I will be saying that in that particular scenario it should simply return me 0. Okay, so in that particular one my expected output is going to be 0 here, as you can see. Then this time again, when this time it is getting called, so this time you don't say me something like this, instead you return me empty. Okay, because it's an optional, so output is going to be empty from the repository layer. So do something like this and see rest of the things are same, assert that and this and this. So this way we are going to work here. Now so this way, now the next thing is that since this is a class in your Spring Boot, so here you need to again provide one more annotation, that is here something like Spring Boot test. Okay, so here I'm assuming that you have a bit idea of JUnit and Mockito and something like this, then only you will be able to work. Otherwise you may feel that okay Abhishek, you are not explaining in detail. But believe me guys, these things like assertions, verifications and something like this is, I'm assuming that you know from the JUnit background or the Mockito background. Okay, the goal is how to do the testing in Spring Boot. So whatever is new, that I'm actually trying to explain you. So now we will say Spring Boot test. Okay, because of this only you will be able to auto wire. If you won't mention this, then it will just behave like a normal test class, and then this auto wiring is not going to work. Okay, now what happens is when you say here Spring Boot test, so now this is almost equivalent that in your demo class you used to say something like this, Spring Boot application. So for your normal application you say Spring Boot application, for this one you say Spring Boot test. Now try to understand, when you say here Spring Boot application, what it does, it loads the complete context and then it loads all the classes, then it creates the bean for all the classes. But here the point is we don't need to load all the classes. I mean, what's the benefit of loading all the classes? We just want to test the service IMPL. So what we are going to do here is we will be saying here classes, something like this, and here we will be saying pet service and this particular one pet service IMPL dot class. So we are saying that okay, you just need to load the pet service IMPL, that's it. You don't need to load all other classes, only this class needs to be loaded. Why? Because we are testing this. There is no even need to load the pet repository because we are going to mock it, so there is no need to load the actual one. Okay, so this is how the things are going to look like, and now let's run it. So for this we will just go here, so you can just click on the class, so only this class will run. If you click on package, so this package will run. If you say SRC test, so all the classes will run. As of now it's only one, so output is going to be remain same. So we'll go here, we will say run as, and we will say JUnit test. Okay, so there is this shortcut also. So now you see it is working. So it has not loaded each and everything, it has only loaded the required things. Okay, that is only the pet service IMPL for us. And here let me drag it here. So what it says, that it says that okay, you were having two tests and both of them are working fine. And see here also it is very clear which all two tests are working fine for me. Yeah, So okay, so this way we can test this service layer. So now you remember, for service layer, first of all, this is required, and mention which class you want to test. Now whatever class you want to test, auto-wire it. All other things you say mock bean. Then within this there should be three conditions always given, some given condition, then what you actually want to test, and what you are assuming that what should be the output, then what should happen. And now this is your choice, whether you want to make clear test method names, or you just want to say test find average age of pet. I mean, then what would you have called this particular method? Yeah, you must have said 1 or 2 or something like this, but I hope these are much more readable names in our scenario. Okay, now let's do the testing of the repository layer. So let me simply close them, and this time I will be opening the pet repository. So we are going to test it, but before this let me just do a small thing. I will copy this name because this time I don't want to write on my own. So I will go here, and here I will do the number one thing. So here I will say repository, and within the repository I will be saying here impl. So here it is going to work fine. You can say impl test, and here also you can say pet repository, something like this, and then you can say test. So either you can say pet repository test, or you can say pet repository impl test. It doesn't matters much. Okay, so we will be saying repository impl test because we are going to test our implementation which we coded. So again, this doesn't need to be public as always. So now let's quickly repeat what all other things needs to be done. Now this time we need to test the repository layer. So what I will be doing is I will be copying this particular one, and this one needs to be auto wired. So let's simply do that particular one. So here we will be saying auto wired, and here let's make it as private. Let's do something like this. Let's again do something like this, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like, pet repository. So Control Shift O again. So this works. Now the next thing is that again we need to test this particular method. So for this particular one, what I'll quickly do is that I have already written that particular thing. So let me paste the big name and let me provide it here, and then it is going to look something like this. So I will say test find average age of pet when pets exist should return correct average age. Okay, so this we can tell, or we can simply say should return the average age, something like this it should be returning. Again, on the test method we need to tell here @test. So this is how it is going to look like. Now within this comes the next logic. So again, as always, let's have those three things. So first of all, it is given. So better that always you write this. Okay, I mean, it may sound silly as of now, but believe me, whenever you will write, then while writing the actual things, you will get an idea that okay, whether you are doing the right testing or something you are missing. Okay, now what I need to test first of all. So for this I can go here within this pet repository. I will go and I will be saying here pet repository, and I will say find average something this. So this particular method I want to call. Now what is going to be the output? So this time the output, you see, it is going to be something optional in nature. So let me simply copy it and paste it here, and then I need to provide the variable. So I will be saying here something like this, actual average. So yeah, again that's a silly mistake. I mean, that's too odd. I'm doing the same mistake again and again. Okay, such a foolish person teaching you, and you are learning from me. Okay, but still it works. Okay, so this is our condition. Okay, that okay, when we are going to call this particular thing. Now what we are asserting, so this time we will say assert that something like this. So this time the number one thing is we need to assert that whether this exists or not. Okay, so that is the number one thing, that it should be existing. Okay, because the output this time is optional, so hence you can check it. So we will say here is present, something like this, and yeah, it's not coming. The reason is because of this assert that, because that didn't came here completely. Now it is available, assert that and something like this, and now here you can say is present. So first of all we are checking whether it is present or not. Now in case if it is present, then let's check the value for this. So again we will say here assert that, and this time again let's do the same thing, actual average age, and now let's say here get something in this particular way. Yeah, now this is going to be, see, your double value. So whenever you are testing a double value, you can't simply say equals. That is not going to work. Okay, instead you should always say is close, something like this, is close to, and here you should be saying here expected average age. Okay, so here we can say expected average age. So let me write it like this, expected average age. So this is another way. Okay, there we directly made usage of equals. Here we are doing it in a little bit different way, expected average age in this particular one, where we will be making usage of precision and all other things. So here let's say with precision. Okay, so something like this, and here in the precision we are going to say 0.1. So what we are actually trying to say here is that, okay, there can be a little bit mistake when you are doing this kind of calculations. Okay, I mean that is also very small mistake of 0.1 or something like this, because it's a double value basically. Okay, and again it should be coming from your assertion, something in this particular way. But where is this expected average age? So again let's copy, and this time you know that it needs to be given in your this particular given part. So here we will be saying here double, and here we will be saying expected something like this. As of now let me simply say it as 0, then later on I will be providing the value. Okay, so as of now let me simply write it like this. So this is how it is going to look like. But the point is that this time it is not going to work. Okay, because last time if you see, when we were testing the service, at that time we can say that, okay, the actual value is going to come from the repository and that we are going to mock. So something like this we can provide. But this time you are going to interact with your database, so this is not going to work. So this time we need to actually perform some operations in the database, but for that there should be some test data available in our database. Okay, so for this what we are going to do, first of all we need to save the things in the repository. So let's start saving the things in the repository here. So let's say save something like this, and within this particular one here let's provide the domestic pet. So here we will be saying something like this particular one is domestic pet. Yeah, so it's going to look something like this, and here let me create this particular variable domestic and pet something this way, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like. But now you remember that for domestic pet we didn't created any direct way. Okay, for this entity if you see here we don't have that particular big constructor, so the only way is that we need to do it with the help of the getter setter methods and something like this. Yeah, but the point is, instead of writing the test data here, because this is going to be something your test data which you want to have, so instead of writing the test data here, what generally we used to do is that here we need to provide a new class. So let's write it something like this. So this is going to be my class, and let's say this is going to be my test helper data. Okay, so something like test data, and here let me say util. And on this particular one again I forgot, so I need to write this whole big name something like this, Abhishek Verma, and here I can simply say util something like this. So this is going to be my utility class. So now this is going to be my simple utility class, and here what I'm simply going to do is let me just copy paste from my existing code, and I will be providing here this particular one, Control Shift O. Okay, so here I have done, so what I have simply done is I have written a method which is going to accept all your things in single line, the pet name, gender, type and birth date, and then it is going to set all these things and will be providing you a domestic pet. Now you will say that, okay Abhishek, this you could have done there also, but believe me, then it would have become long, like these 4-5 lines I need to write there, and this I may need to use again and again. So instead of writing it there, we can write it here also. Yeah, now if I'm going to save it, now you will see that, okay, this class contains only the static methods. When it contains only the static methods, so it should be having a static constructor also, or basically a private constructor. So let's write it like this. So now we are having a private constructor. So now what we can do is we just need to simply call this particular method. So let me copy it here, let me go this to this particular one, and let's say it like this. So here we will be saying test, and here we will be saying data. So this is how it is going to look like, and here this we are going to provide the details. So now these details can be provided. Now instead of again providing all these details one by one, what I will be doing is I will simply copy from one particular place, and I will directly show you that how this is going to look like to save the time. So again let me say Control Shift O. Now you see what I have done is, instead of providing one data, I am providing 3 data here. okay, for this domestic pet. Then I'm saying test data util, call this method pet name, and then this thing is not working. So let me simply write here as gender dot something like this. Let me say control shift O, and on the top now we are getting this gender. So what I will do is I will do here a star. I will be mentioning here something like static. I mean, with static imports, this is a small issue which we keep on facing again and again. And the other one also which we need here is the pet type. So let me again say star for this, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like. And now we don't need to mention here something like this. I can simply say control shift O. Yeah, so this is the one. So three values we have provided, if something just random data we are providing something like this. Okay, so this we have given. Now still, how to calculate the expected average age? So in order to calculate the expected average age, what we will be doing is we will be saying here stream, then we will be saying here of. So we will be getting all this data, okay, something like this. So I will be saying stream, again we need to say control shift O so that we can get the object of stream. Now let's say here something like this, domestic pet 1 dot get birth date, and same way we will be getting the birth dates of all the pets here one by one. So let's start taking here. So this is for the first one, this is for the second one here, and let's move on with the third one also. So this is the pet date of birth for the third one. So now these date of births we have taken for all of them. Now let's go to the next line. Now after this, what we are going to do is from here we are going to calculate their age. So for this we need to map to something. So we will be saying here map dot double, something like this. So in the input we are having a birth date here. Then from this birth date, how we will be calculating the age? So we will be saying here period dot between. This is like any way you can make usage of. Okay, so here we will be saying this particular birth date, and here we will be saying compare it with today's date. So here we will be saying local date dot now. So what actually we are trying to do is, instead of hard coding some expected value here, I'm simply writing in this particular way. The benefit is that here later on, let's say if I'm going to execute the same code after 1 year, then also it is going to work fine, because again it will do the calculation with the latest value, latest today's date, okay, not the old one. So this is the average, and in case if there is no value, then return 0.0. okay, so this way we are going to write here. So this is going to be my big average age, something like this. Okay, so let me just say control shift O, control shift F. Now it again turned to that particular way. Let me move these to the next line. Okay, so this is how it is going to look like. So average, and if it is not there, return the age. So this worked. Now same way we can write the another one also. So for this, let me again copy paste the same thing. So I will copy and I will paste below this. So this second scenario is when we don't have any particular output, or we don't have any data in the database. So in that particular scenario, what is we first of all need given, then we need something like when, and then we need something like then here. Okay, so now in the when condition, you see again this when condition is going to remain same. Yeah, so this is how it is going to look like. Then this particular one, so this is also going to remain same, but since this time it is going to be empty and not present, so here we will be saying empty. So yeah, this is the one. Yeah, and in given, what will you do? So by default there is no data in the database, so there is nothing given. So when nothing is given, then it is going to be something like this, and then obviously this time you just need to say it is going to be empty, not even 0. You only need to check it with the empty. So this is how it is going to work, guys. Now the next part. So now the test methods we have written. Now comes the main thing. So that was not the main thing. That was like, that is going to change from your code to my code to someone else's code. Okay, but now what I'm going to write is that is going to remain same, and that's very, very important. You will hardly find in the on other YouTube channels this particular thing. So from here what we should write. Now remember that when we want to test the pet service sample, I told you that okay, since I want to make usage of this auto wiring and something like this, I should be writing here Spring Boot test. Okay, this particular one. So let's try to go with the same way here also. So here I will be saying this, and here let me say this classes, and here what should be I should be writing. So you will say that okay, Abhishek, this time you want to test pet repository, so only load this particular thing, and you should be writing it like this. But there is a small mistake here. Last time it was working fine because you only wanted to test the service IMPL and you don't want anything else. Okay, everything else can be mocked. But this time when you are saying this particular repository, so you also want the database and some connection with the database. Otherwise, from where you will be getting the entity manager and all other those things, guys. Okay, so that's why this thing is not going to work this time. And instead of this Spring Boot test, you need to tell here data JPA test. So that is the annotation, and hence it is going to vary. So this needs to be the one, data JPA test. Now this data JPA test is very interesting. What it does is it automatically loads only the classes which you want to test and the database related stuff. That is the entity manager factory and all those things. Also it is transactional in nature. Now what do we mean by transactional in nature? That okay, when you are going to execute the test, then this data will be entered in the database. But the moment the test case is over, it will be removed from the database. So for this particular test, the database is going to be empty. So that is how it is going to work here, guys. Yeah. So this is the point. But still there is one small mistake here. Okay, that small mistake here is that this time it is only going to load the repository layer and your entity manager layer, not any other things. Now when I say it is not going to load any other thing, that simply means it is not even going to load your entity class. Okay, so hence for that particular thing we need to provide here another annotation, that is @ okay, or something like this. So you need to say entity. So here let me say entity, and I need this particular one, entity scan. Okay, so here we need to scan the entities also for that particular thing. So here let's say these packages, and it can be a string array, not the classes as such. So if you wish, you can mention these specific classes also, but since in my case it will be pet, domestic pet and wild pet, so what I will be doing is I will directly provide the package name itself. So let's go to this particular one and let's copy this particular package name. So copy, and here also let's paste it. So this we have done. Now since you are doing this, so now let's see how it is going to work. Okay, so what we will do is we will simply go here and let's execute it. So let me simply execute, and now let's see what it is going to do for us. So now you see when we are running, it says that okay, there is some error in creating a bean. Now what it says failed to replace data source with an embedded database for the test. Okay, and then it says if you want an embedded database, please put it in your class path or somewhere into this particular annotation. The thing is, when you are simply testing it, then it is trying to test with your main database. Now your main database is your MySQL in my particular case here. Okay, so here you see that I have provided all the MySQL things and something like this, but I don't want to pollute my main database with that particular thing. So whenever you are testing, the best practice is that in your pom.xml, you should be having some in-memory database. Okay, so as per the best practices, we should be having the in-memory database, and for this it's not a big deal. So we can copy from our previous pom.xml because I remember it was available there. So I can copy this one and I will be just pasting it along to this particular one. Yeah, the only difference is that I don't want it always, I only want it for the testing purpose. So the scope of h2 is only test this time. Yeah, now you remember that okay, whenever you are going to add the h2, okay, then it is also going to load all those SQL things automatically. So this also we saw in the previous demo. So we will go here, and here we will add one more property, that okay, don't initialize these SQL statements and something like this. You don't need to do something like that. Okay, so this is a small change which you need to do. So now let's again see that okay, how the things are going to work here. So let's simply test it again, and let me go here. So let's see test, and yeah, let's see what it does this time. So this time when you are going to test, so okay, again some error, guys. Yeah, so here it says that okay, this time again it says there is no qualifying bean of owner service or something like this. Okay, so by default what happens is that I just told you that this one is going to load only the repository and the related entity and those things. Okay, so why is it saying that service is not available? Because when you make usage of it At that point of time, what it does is it says that, okay, is there this particular kind of annotation? This annotation is available. Now, since this annotation is available, it will try to load all the classes and something like that. Okay, but your data JPA test, I mean this particular JPA, so this one data JPA test, it says only load the repository, but this particular one says that no, load each and everything. So hence there is a conflict. So that means we need to have a testing configuration this time. Okay, so for this, what we are going to do is that here we will be going something like this, and we will create our configuration. So that is going to be my test config, so that it doesn't loads all the other classes and only one particular class should be loaded. Okay, I mean only the respective classes should be loaded here. So we will say this, and here we are going to say this. So this way we are going to keep, and on this one we need to create it as a configuration class. So I will be saying here configuration in this particular way, and yeah, it simply needs to be empty. You don't need to write anything here. Okay, now here we will come back, and here we'll say that, okay, along with your data JPA test, the configuration class which now you need to understand for the context is going to be this particular one, context configuration. And within this, here we will be saying classes, so something like this. So here we will say classes, and here let's say test config this particular one dot class. So this class you need to consider as the configuration class. Yeah, now since when you have mentioned this, now even the JPA repository is not going to be enabled, so that also needs to be enabled this time, and this needs to mention something like this, enable JPA repositories. I hope last time when you saw the previous demo, at that in that particular demo also we made usage of it. Okay, so that we can say that, okay, only make usage of this repository, only make usage of this entity package, no need to load anything, and then this is going to be your test config. Yeah, so now let's again have a test and do something like this. So we will go again here and let's test this one. So now we will see something and let's see how it works. So okay, it has started and doing something like this, and see what it does. So here if we go, so you see it is inserting some data here. Okay, so some data has been inserted, but this data is not getting inserted in your main database, it is getting inserted in the H2 database. Okay, so now these two test cases are also getting passed, and if you click on the complete SRC test Java, we can again check whether it is getting working or not. So this time also, now it is going to load each and everything. Okay, so now all the 4 tests are working, the repository tests are working, the service tests are also working. Okay, the only thing you need to remember is all these annotation needs to be added in that particular way only. Yeah, so that is very important, because generally you won't find something like this. Now besides this, let's quickly provide the owner service IMPL test and the owner repository IMPL test, and directly I will explain you what all extra things are there. So now as you can see, I have added the owner service IMPL test also. Again, this looks same. So here we are saying Spring Boot test. This time I have also added test property source. Now why it is required? Because if you see in my owner service IMPL, I need to read a property from the properties file. In pet service IMPL, there was nothing like that. Hence it wasn't required, but this time I need to read something from there, and hence I need to mention this thing that, okay, test property source. In your normal code, if you remember, there we say property source. So here we are saying test property source, and this is the one. Then here, since this time we need to test the owner service, so we are saying auto-wire the owner service, and the repository you can mock. Okay, now these are my methods. So first condition is test the update pet details when the owner exists, and then it should actually update the pet details. So again, we have 3 things: given, when, and then. So in the when condition, we are saying call this method update pet details, and then here we are checking that, okay, the name should be updated to this particular one. The owner find by method, find by ID should be called only once. Save method should be called only once. So all those things we are checking, and here we are providing some test data initially. Okay, so here we don't need to provide the full data, so only this much is going to be fine for us. So this is working. Then in this next one, so here we say when owner does not exist. So again we are providing some input data, but this time we are saying from the owner repository you will be getting optional empty. So when you will be getting this, you should be throwing this kind of message. So this is my expected message. Then I will say assert that thrown by, and I will be calling this method. So I will check whether this exception has been thrown. If yes, whether this particular message has been thrown. If yes, whether we have actually called find by id, and that too only once. So this we are doing. Then in the next one, so the next one was the page method, if you remember. Okay, so there we are providing the input page number as 1 this time, input number of records as 2 this time, something like this. Then here we are creating the pageable object because it was required, and then here we were saying expected details list, something like this. We were saying pageable and all those things, and see, then it is going to work something like this. Okay, so this is the test data, but again here we don't have anything much to test in the service layer. Okay, because the logic in this service is very simple, hence you won't find anything much. But let's see how the repository looks like. So for the repository, again we need to have this particular thing first of all. Then we need to say again entity scan, enable JPA repositories, data JPA test. So goal is to learn all these things. Okay, then here see how I'm doing. So again, when I need to test that particular method, that is the find method with the pagination. So first of all, I'm saving some owners. So I'm saving 3 owners here. Again, for this, I have updated this particular test data util, something like this. Okay, almost in the same way. So first of all, I'm saving the 3 owners in this particular way. Then I'm saying pageable 1, 2, and then I'm saying that okay, it should be returning me only that particular thing. Now since I'm saying page 1, so page numbers actually start from 0. So we are having total 3 data in total. Now every page size is going to be 2. So on page number 0, these 2 will appear, and on page number 1, this one is going to appear. So hence I'm saying that okay, only this one should be there. So I'm saying that okay, the output should not be empty. Then I'm saying that okay, get the first element of it. It should not be null. The size should be 4, and the output should be some ID. This first name 3, the last name 3, and the pet name 3. Okay, I mean what all things we provided here. And for the other one, I'm not saving anything in the database, so when I will do, it is going to return me empty. So this is how again this thing is going to work here, guys. Yeah, so now let's simply test all these things together, and let's say something like this. So yeah, here it is going to look this way. So I hope everything should be working fine. And this, so again the main thing is not what we have written in each and every method. The main thing is which all annotations we have made usage of, because this set of annotations if you will use, then you will be able to test your repository. Otherwise on Google you will find too many options, some will work, some won't work, but believe me, this is going to work because it's working for me. Okay, so everything is working, and this way even this particular demo is clear, and I hope that yeah, everything is working fine, you find it helpful. If yes, then do like the video, share it with your friends, comment something, and see you in the next video. Bye everyone.